Friends, it's another pantry challenge week. This is week 2 of the pantry challenge, so welcome back. If you've missed week 1, please make sure you go back and watch that. It was a whole lot of fun. This week it's going to be a little interesting because I only have $25 to spend for my family on groceries this week. Everything else that we use will have to come out of our pantry or out of our food storage, and that is it. I used the other $25 because I should have had a $50 weekly grocery allowance and a $50 bulk food storage allowance. But I kind of blew $25 of it on fast food when I was sick. It happened. So instead, I've got $25 to spend at the grocery store to get us through the week. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so for this week's groceries, I got 2 boxes of rice checks. These were on clearance for 75 cents a piece, so I picked up 2 of those. This omega-3's trail mix, I love this to top oatmeal. It goes great with some cinnamon and brown sugar. And then 2 of these bags of quick cooking oats for oatmeal. It was cheaper to get it this way than to get it in a bigger container. It was just cheaper by ounce to do 2 of these instead of a big container. This bread here from the Walmart bakery clearance rack. I throw these in the freezer until I need them. That way it stays fresh. 1 pound of mozzarella cheese. This will be for some pasta I'm doing. And then if I have enough of this plus others, I may throw in some pizza this week. And then I have 2 gallons of milk. Imagine them sitting right here. They're already in the fridge. I also went ahead and picked up 4 more boxes of rice checks since they were 75 cents a piece for my stock up for the week. That's all that I've seen that was on a great deal that I need to stock up with. And these are good till November of this year. So plenty of time left on those. Alright, let's get to cooking this week. So, day 1 of this pantry challenge. We are starting off with fried eggs for breakfast, pork tenderloin for dinner. So, for frying eggs in cast iron skillet, you always need to start off with more fat than you think you need in your skillet. The fat is the key to keeping your eggs from sticking to your skillet, also helping your eggs to cook more evenly, and with butter, it makes everything better. So, it basically just makes your eggs taste even better than farm fresh eggs already do. Now, eggs will play a big role in our pantry challenge. If you were not here for week 1, you may not know, but this is a homestead pantry challenge. We have 15 chickens, so we do have eggs that come into our house every single day that we have available to cook with. So, eggs really do play a big part in our lives. If you do not have chickens and you have the ability to have chickens, I highly suggest you get some chickens so you can have your own source of eggs. It's a great protein source for your family, and you can always butcher the chickens if you need to later on when they stop laying, or if you need chicken meat or whatever. It's very versatile. We love chickens for laying eggs. So there are our fried eggs for breakfast. Let's move on to making our pork tenderloin. So we are again going to start off with our cast iron skillet, heat it up, add some fat into it. You always want to start with a hot skillet and fatten it before you cook your meat. Now, this pork tenderloin I got on Manager Special at Food Lion for $2.31. I think it was like 1.2 pounds or whatever of pork tenderloin, but $2.31 for a protein for 1 meal is a really good price, and I will take it anytime I see it. So with this pork tenderloin, we are going to do a rub on it of this bourbon peach seasoning I got from Sam's Club, some onion powder, and a little bit of garlic powder. I use a lot of onion powder and garlic powder. Just rub them on so it's well coated. And then we are going to cook our pork tenderloin on each side until golden brown. This helps to lock in those juices, make a more moist and tender pork tenderloin. After you've cooked it for a few minutes on each side and allowed it to get that crust, you want to throw it in the oven to allow it to finish cooking. We cook our pork to 150 degrees and then let it rest for a minimum of 5 minutes before cutting it. All of these steps go to play into a more tender, moist pork. Now, for our sides for this dinner, we are going to be cooking some green beans and some macaroni and cheese. So, green beans in a can, macaroni and cheese out of a box. I know they're not homemade. This is a pantry challenge, and this is what I have in my pantry. So Declan is not a fan of green beans, and I don't really eat a whole lot of macaroni and cheese because I'm on a lower carb diet, not necessarily low carb, but lower carb. So this is kind of how we compromise. I do a little bit of mac and cheese. Declan doesn't do any green beans. You'll see our plates usually always look different when I fix them for our family. So for green beans, it's butter, onion powder, garlic powder, salt, pepper, and then your green beans. The trick to making canned green beans not mushy is to shake your pan to mix them around. Do not use a utensil to mix them around because that's going to mush them up. Now, mac and cheese, this is actually just plain Velveeta mac and cheese. I got it on sale at Sam's Club in a big box, so I have a lot of it on hand. So you will probably see this many times throughout the pantry challenge. It is one thing I can always guarantee that Declan will eat, so I keep it on hand for that. He's not as big of a fan of homemade mac and cheese as he is of this one. I know, he's a weird child, but as long as he gets his belly full, that's what makes me happy. So our pork is out of the oven, and now it is time for it to rest before we cut it up for dinner. And like I said, each of our plates looks a little different. I only have a little mac and cheese. Declan chose no green beans tonight. Kenneth has both. This is just how we do our meals as a family. So day 2, we're going to do oatmeal and then turkey and dressing for dinner. So oatmeal is the easiest thing you're going to make for breakfast. Well, at least for this week. And all it is 2 parts liquid to 1 part oats. So this morning I'm using half milk, half water. If you want a more creamy oatmeal, use all milk. If you want a less creamy oatmeal, use all water. If you have half and half or heavy whipping cream, you can do just a little bit of that and the rest of it water. It doesn't really matter as long as you have 2 parts liquid to 1 part water. I throw all of that in my pan and then cook it on medium-low heat until it's done. Some people do this step different. It's just the easiest way I can find to do it as a busy mom and a busy wife to get my oatmeal done for my family. Just throw it all in there and let it cook. Doesn't take long, about 10 minutes, and we'll have breakfast done. So for our oatmeal, to kind of boost it up a little bit, I always add cinnamon, salt, vanilla, and a little bit of brown sugar. Some extra butter in it is also delicious. If I want to make it even fancier, I will sometimes add nutmeg or pumpkin pie spice. You can add fresh apples, raisins, whatever you want to do to jazz your oatmeal up so your family will eat it. Do it. It is so delicious and it's cost effective. Oats store really well in the pantry, so it's great for pantry challenges and for future stock up of foods. I always have some on hand and I suggest you do too. Now for our oatmeal this week, I bought the trail mix you've seen in our grocery haul. That is what I'm going to use to top my oatmeal. Declan asked to have his trail mix on the side. Kenneth said he didn't want any trail mix, so again, everybody a little bit different. And there is our breakfast. For dinner, we're going to do turkey and dressing. This turkey come from back at Thanksgiving. I found some turkeys on sale for about 23 cents a pound. I share sales like that over my Instagram stories when I find them. You can follow me at Living the Height Life on Instagram. I just cut those turkeys up and then I kind of carved them up. So this is an entire turkey breast from one side of the turkey. It is pre-cooked. It was frozen. I'm just going to season it up with some garlic powder, some onion powder, a little bit of Italian seasoning, and then we're going to cook it in some chicken broth with some salt and pepper, of course. But we're going to cook it in the chicken broth to allow it to stay moist as it cooks. You can baste the turkey breast in the chicken broth about every 10 minutes throughout the cooking process. It takes about 30 minutes to heat all the way through. I'm doing about 40 on mine because it was kind of still frozen. And that's all you need to do to that. It is just a great way to keep food on hand to make dinner easy on a busy night. Now, the rest of my chicken broth I'm going to throw into a sauce pot with a little bit of this easy onion, which is just pre-chopped dehydrated onion you keep in your fridge, and then a little bit of garlic, a little bit of butter, and we are just going to make up some stovetop dressing. Of course, this dressing was also something I found on sale at Thanksgiving. They have things like this that are used for Thanksgiving dinner on sale. If they are shelf-stable items, I highly recommend you buying them when they are on sale seasonally and then buying enough to last you throughout the year. However you do that, turkey and dressing isn't just for Thanksgiving. We eat it year round, and it's delicious that way. So all you have to do with stovetop stuffing is really just heat everything up, and it's done. It's super simple, super easy. That's why it makes a great meal for a work night. And so I'm just basting the turkey to allow it to stay moist as it cooks. And here's the finished product. I served it with some home canned cranberry sauce that I canned up at Thanksgiving, and we were good to go. Day 3 is going to be boiled eggs and homemade pasta. I'm not going to bore you too much with the boiled eggs. The tricks to making farm fresh eggs, though, is to do it in the Instant Pot. I do 4 minutes on pressure and a 4-minute release, and then I do a manual release to go ahead and release off the rest of the pressure. They don't take long in the Instant Pot at all. And then once they're done, I take and empty out the water that was in there with them, add in some fresh cold water enough to just cover them, and then add in my ice packs to help keep them cool. This will make them easier to peel. The Instant Pot does a great job. This trick also works. Farm fresh eggs are notoriously difficult to peel as hard-boiled eggs, but these actually come out pretty easily done this way. I go ahead and peel them all up because everybody is more likely to eat them if they are already peeled versus if I just stick them in the fridge with the shells on. They tend to sit there longer that way. And then once I peel them all, I just stick them on a paper towel to allow the water to drain off of them to get them nice and dry. And then they go in an airtight container or a Ziploc bag in the fridge. They're good for about 3 to 4 days, so I don't suggest making a ton at once. After that, I just feed them to the chickens if we have any left. So, as for dinner, homemade pasta. I made homemade pasta in week 1, making homemade pasta in week 2. The recipe will be in the description box below. This is a full pasta recipe. Week 1, I think I only did half a pasta recipe. So, it's super easy. It's just flour, salt, then egg. You do 1 whole egg. The rest of them are just egg yolks. I feed the egg whites back to the chickens. Nothing goes to waste around here. And then all you have to do is just mix that on up. Add a little bit of water, about a tablespoon at a time, until it forms a dough. And there you go. That's how easy it is to make homemade pasta. It's ingredients we always have on hand. Ingredients I hope that you always have on hand as well. And you can always have fresh, easy homemade pasta. It doesn't take long at all. Now, for my pasta, I don't have a pasta maker like necessarily. I just take and let it set for 10 minutes to rest, roll it out with my rolling pin as thin as I can get it, and use a pizza cutter to cut it into strips. That's all I do. It's not necessarily the easiest way to do it because it is a little more time consuming and my strips end up a little funky looking, but it makes pasta, it tastes great, and it's more healthy for my family because an egg-based pasta is higher in protein and lower in carbs than that store-bought pasta you get. Plus, it doesn't have the preservatives. So that's why I'm choosing to do it this way. Now, homemade pasta sauce, again, super easy, not time consuming. I'm just using 2 cans of tomato sauce and 1 box of crushed tomatoes. You can use canned crushed tomatoes. And then 2 of my jars of home canned ground beef. All of that's going to go into a sauce pot together. Now, the trick with making your own pasta sauce is the longer you let it simmer and reduce, the more flavorful it is going to be. Normally, when I make this, I only use 1 can of tomato sauce and 1 can of crushed tomatoes. I'm using 2 cans of tomato sauce this time because I'm going to save half of this pasta sauce and freeze it for pizza later on in the week. I also added in 4 cloves of garlic that has been chopped up. Fresh garlic tastes better in pasta sauce than the kind you keep in your fridge. Fresh onion does too, but I don't have any fresh onion on hand. I did not have it in the grocery budget this week, so we're using the kind that goes in the fridge. And then 3 tablespoons of Italian seasoning, some salt, some pepper. If you've got some extra basil or something like that, throw that in there. Fresh herbs definitely always taste better than dried herbs. But just use whatever you have on hand. If you don't have the fresh garlic or the refrigerator garlic powder, onion powder, those also work as well. Just make sure you're tasting so that your seasonings are correct. Add more if you think you need it. I have also added a little bit of sugar to my pasta sauce. This helps cut the acidity in it. You don't have to do it. That step is completely optional. I'm cooking my pasta that we made in some water for about 5 to 7 minutes. Because it is fresh, it don't take quite as long to boil as store-bought pasta, so make sure you're keeping a close eye on it so it doesn't get overdone. Another trick I have with homemade pasta is I always toss my freshly cooked pasta noodles in some of my sauce before plating it up. I just feel like the noodles absorb that sauce better and it gives it a better flavor. So just take a little bit in there, mix it around, toss it around, and it is good to go. You then have extra sauce for topping your pasta if you want extra sauce, or if you don't want extra sauce, however you want to do it. Just highly recommend tossing your noodles in at least a little bit of your pasta sauce before you plate. And then I'm choosing to top mine with a little bit of mozzarella on top. Declan wanted some mozzarella on the side. Kenneth asked for no mozzarella. Again, we're a little different, but everybody was happy at dinner and it was very delicious. So, the recipe I have been promising to show y'all, homemade chocolate syrup. Now, I got this recipe originally from Farah over at Ringling Rutherford. She shared it in an Instagram reel. I've got it tweaked just a little bit because I like my chocolate syrup to be a little bit thicker than what her recipe makes. I find the thinnest syrup, I use too much of it, and I end up making a mess. To make this recipe, all I do is I mix half a cup of water, half a cup of sugar, half a cup of cocoa powder, plus a 1/4 cup of cocoa powder if you want the thicker kind, a little bit of salt, and vanilla until my heart is content that day. Actual measurements will be in the description box below. Give it a quick mix up. You want to get your cocoa powder thoroughly mixed through. That's the hardest part of the whole recipe is mixing that cocoa powder in. And then heat it up on low heat until it is just getting steamy. It's smooth from your sugar melting. If it starts to bubble along the edges, turn it off, take it off the heat. That is thoroughly heated through. So you don't even have to get it to that point. Once it starts steaming and it is smooth, like you'll see it get here in a second, then you know it is finished. So this is my smooth chocolate sauce. There's no sugar granules. It is steamy. It is ready to go. To store it, I pour it into an airtight container like a mason jar and put it in the fridge. It can last for a week or longer. It doesn't have anything that's really perishable in it, so longer is definitely a good possibility. We've never had it last longer than a week in our house, though. We use this in chocolate milk for Declan every morning and in my chocolate protein milk for me every morning. So day 4, we're going to do boiled eggs and cereal and then marinated chicken. I'm not going to bore you with the boiled eggs and cereal, so we're going to jump straight to the marinated chicken. Do your fat in your cast iron skillet. Always start with a warm cast iron skillet and fat. I'm using tallow here. It's a little hard for me to get out of the jar because I keep it in the fridge once opened. If the tallow is too hard for you to scoop out of the jar, you can set it on your counter for about 30 minutes before you start to cook. It'll come up to room temperature just a tad, and that makes it easier to scoop. Now our chicken is marinated in the zesty steak sauce. It was IGA's version of like Heinz 57, one of our favorite ways to marinate chicken and a great way to use up those leftover condiments in your fridge. So once it's marinated for about 30 minutes, we're just going to fry it up in this oil. I use a thermometer to make sure my chicken is done without being overdone. You want to cook it to 160, let rest for 5 minutes before you cut into it. In the back left-hand corner of the stove, you can see I have a pot with what looks like milk in it. I am making instant mashed potatoes. It's an easy side dish after a long work night, so just, it is what it is. I also paired this with some canned peas. Again, easy side dish after a long work night. It filled bellies. It was delicious. Everybody was happy. Declan eats second servings of this potato. He also chose some cheese sticks to go on the side of his plate. We all went to bed with full bellies. That's all I ever asked for. All right, let's get into day 5. All right, friends. So it is obviously work night for me. So, quick and easy dinner out of leftovers is coming at you. Leftovers are one of our favorite things to make as a family. The thing with us is that we live off grid and we don't have a microwave to heat our leftovers up in. So that is why I'm heating them up on the stove. It's very similar to how I made the chicken in the first place. My cast iron skillet, a little bit of fat in the pan, and I just heat my chicken up in the pan, kind of like I'm cooking it, but it don't take as long. It takes about 5, maybe 10 minutes for it to get heated all the way through. A lid on top of this chicken will help hold that heat in and help it heat more thoroughly without drying out. So I highly recommend that. In the back, our sides for tonight, you can see that I'm pouring creamed corn into one of these pans. And then in the other pan, I've got green beans going in there. Declan chose the corn. It's a little bit higher in carbs for me, so I added green beans, which is a lower carb vegetable. And we kind of just make it work. And there's our plate. So we each got separate things. Declan got cheese sticks on his plate. I chose no corn to go on my plate, and instead I got 2 servings of green beans. Kenneth got corn and green beans. He eats just about everything. And we were all happy. Day 6 is going to be boiled eggs for breakfast again, tuna and pasta for dinner. Now, our tuna pasta recipe is on our blog website, www.livingthehutlife.com. Under homestead recipes. I showcased this in last year's pantry challenge. It is one of our favorites. I'm just going to serve it with some of this bread I got off the Walmart bakery clearance rack that I've had in my freezer, turning it into some homemade garlic bread by heating up a little bit of butter on it, some onion powder, some garlic powder, and some Italian seasoning. The easiest thing in the world is to make garlic bread, and it is so yummy. So I am not all the way there on this, like it isn't from scratch bread, but it is a semi-homemade garlic bread. So every step you can do to make your dish at least semi-homemade cuts out a little bit of those preservatives, a little bit of those chemicals that you don't want in your family's diet. So even if you can't do from scratch, just find some ways to make it semi-homemade to make it that much healthier for your family. And on nights when you don't have that, just do some freezer garlic bread. Now, like I said, this recipe is going to be down below. Now, you know, I've said it many times, I eat a lower carb diet, so I'm only making just enough pasta for Kenneth and Declan. I will not be having the pasta part of the tuna dinner. We all do things a little differently. But the thing with the tuna pasta is it's simple, it's easy, it's quick. It's just noodles, can of tuna, some lemon pepper seasoning. That's the best part of it. It's delicious. A little bit of butter, some Parmesan cheese. You can add in some milk or half and half if you want to make it a little creamier, make the sauce a little creamier. Super, super good. Add in some onion powder, garlic powder, fresh onions, fresh garlic, whatever you want to jazz it up. You can do it your own way, but it is a great way to turn just some random pantry items into a meal for your family. So Kenneth and Declan have tuna pasta. I just have tuna salad with some pickles on the side, a little bit of garlic bread for that crunch. We were all happy. We all had full bellies. Did not go to bed hungry, and that is the best thing I could ask for. Day 7 is boiled eggs and cereal with biscuits and gravy for dinner, because who doesn't love to have breakfast for dinner? These biscuits are just some frozen biscuits I had in the freezer that I got on a clearance sale at one point in time. And then some sausage. Again, I got this on sale. I think it was Jimmy Dean natural sausage is what I had in here. So no big deal. Nothing special. I just made it into some sausage patties and fried it up in my cast iron skillet. I recommend making your gravy in the same pan you fry your sausage in, because you want all of those little bitty sausage bits in your gravy. It really helps to flavor your gravy. Now, normally your sausage is going to have enough fat in it that you don't have to add additional fat to your pan. This sausage was on the leaner side, so I had to add some tallow in. Then I do about 1/4 of a cup of flour and just pour in enough milk that it looks like it makes enough gravy for my family. I don't have real big measurements on my milk issue. You just want to cook your flour in your grease for a few minutes to get out that raw flour taste. And then that really helps as well to help your gravy thicken up. So if you've never made homemade gravy, it is super easy. It just takes some practice. And make sure you salt and pepper that gravy because gravy needs a whole lot of salt in it to make it taste right. Otherwise, it's just going to be bland. Salt is your friend, my friend. And then I add back some of my sausage pieces that I kind of ripped up to give it a little bit more of that sausage flavor before I put it on our biscuits. Cook it until it gets to just before the thickness that you want it to be, because as gravy cools, it will get thicker. And so don't cook it to where you want it to be as thick. Cook it till right before it gets to the thickness you want, if that made any sense at all. And then again, I just baked up these biscuits, tore them up, topped them with some gravy. Kenneth likes his sausage whole on the side. I like my sausage tore up on my gravy biscuit. Declan doesn't really like the sausage because it's a little spicy, but he still wanted some on his plate anyways. He got a little bit of gravy and a whole biscuit. Alright friends, so this week I did take a little bit of my money that I'm saving up through this pantry challenge for bulk buying and go out and purchase some containers for food storage. So if you don't know, you can buy gamma lids, food seal lids, this twist off, maybe, there we go. It's the 2-part lids that you see everybody talking about. And it is actually, this is what it says on it. So these are what they are. The bucket companion screw top lid. These go on 3.5 to 5 gallon buckets. And these are for food storage. So I bought these to start my 5 gallon bucket journey with flour, sugar, oats, and rice. Are where I'm headed with those. I use a lot of each of those in my cooking, and I just don't have a good way to store them in bulk sizes. So 5 gallon buckets are the way to go. Lowe's has been just about the cheapest place I have found gamma sealed lids. These were $8 something a piece. I'll put the actual price like right here. $8 something a piece. Anyways, everywhere else I found them, they're like $10 to $12, even upwards of $15 a piece. Whew, yeah. I've found at Menards, if you have a Menards near you, they are $6 something a piece, but to get them to where we are on the eastern United States, they come out more expensive because I have to pay shipping on them. So if you have a Menards, they're $2 cheaper there than at Lowe's, but if you have a Lowe's, they are $8 something a piece. So, it's a great place to get them. I got 4 of those. My other 3. And then to store my food in 5 gallon buckets, I have literally just a Lowe's bucket. Lowe's does sell food grade buckets that are labeled food grade buckets. They're white. They're not the blue. The only difference in them is the color. Food grade buckets are white. The Lowe's bucket is blue. The number you want to look for is on the bottom. In the triangle, you want to look for, there's, on the bottom of all plastics, there's a triangle right here. And there's numbers inside of them. That number will tell you which numbers are food safe. So you just need to look at the bottom of the buckets to know if you can use them for food safe stuff. And then clean them out. So these Lowe's buckets are a good option for us, and it was cheaper to get the blue Lowe's bucket than to get the white Lowe's bucket that's designated for food. White one is $8.50 a piece, I think. This one is $4 something, so about half the price. So I got 4 buckets to go with my 4 lids. I'm getting there on my bulk food storage options. The week 1, I didn't really do anything with the $50 I got that week for the bulk food storage. I just kind of rolled it over to week 2. Week 2, I've already spent some of that on buckets and lids. Plus, don't forget the $3 I put into the 75 cents per box of Chex cereal that is now put up in my food storage pantry. So, we got that as well. I have our total here that we have spent so far in our bulk food storage fund. Week 3, I am looking to get something to fill these buckets. So I'm going to be doing price comparisons to find out what has the best price-wise for bulk food options. And I've noticed in some of the things I do when I grocery shop, I look price per ounce. And that's how I price things out, whether it's a good buy or not. I don't necessarily look at cost per size. So next week, week 3, I will be looking at per ounce prices of things and finding the cheapest option to fill my buckets. That is my goal for week 3 and week 4. I will let you know what I do there. So make sure you're staying tuned for week 3 of this pantry challenge, the 3rd week of January. I will see you then. Until next time, friends. Bye. I will see you later.